Okay everyone, welcome to the Graeme Montgomery Photo School. It's our first lesson so excited to have you all here. We've got all your new cameras on the table. I know that some of them are Christmas presents and that's very exciting, but I have a new camera too, and this is my new camera. Which says fragile on it, although it's not. But this is basically what a camera is. It's a completely light tight box, and then I've got a pin here. If you take a pin and make a hole in it, that is effectively exactly the same as what a lens does. So it's now a box with a hole that lets light into it. And amazingly, you can actually use this as a camera. If you put a bit of photosensitive paper in here and you hold it very still, it will make a picture.
I want to try that.
On another day we can try that. That's a whole nother thing to try. But if you imagine yourself sitting inside there, very tiny hole, so not much light coming in. It would take, quite a lot of time to get enough light in there to make a picture maybe. So maybe you want to have a bigger hole. So that's going to let more light in. And if you want even more light in, so suddenly we have a box with a big hole, okay? So this in a camera is called the aperture, and it's something that you can make bigger and smaller, and the bigger it is, the more light it lets in, the smaller it is, the less light it lets in. And as it gets bigger and smaller, it has quite a lot of effects on how the picture looks, and that's something we'll do on another day. But all you need to know at the moment is the bigger the hole, the more light it lets in, the smaller the hole, the less light it lets in.
Same concept as an eye.
Yeah, exactly the same as your eye. Yeah, perfect. It goes bigger, it goes smaller.
Depending on light.
Yeah. Okay, so the next thing is, if I put my hand over here, no light is getting in. If I take it away, put it back, so then some light's got in. So if I do that slowly, more light goes into the box. If I go quickly, less light goes into the box. So, and that in a camera is called the shutter. So that is the thing the shutter is the thing that's letting light in and taking it away. And you can adjust that. Now, the two work in parallel together. So if you have a big hole and a fast shutter, you're going to get exactly the same amount of light as a small hole and a slow shutter, exactly. And they incrementally balance each other out. And again, as we go further into it, you can, if you want to, you can do the maths on it. But everything in photography works on doubling. So the bigger so you double the size of the hole, you half the shutter speed. And the numbers in photography that relate to that are a bit funky, but the size of the hole is called the aperture, and that is described by an F number. And all you need to know is that a small F number, like 1, is a very big hole, and a big F number, like F45, is a very small hole. And that's about...
the smallest one? What number?
I've heard of I've got a lens with an F64. I don't know if you can go smaller than that, but the normal range you'll see on camera lenses is F1 is a really big hole, and F64 is a very small hole, so that's probably what you need to know. And then shutter speeds, modern cameras will shoot anything from 1/6000th of a second to, you can keep the camera open for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, as long as you want. So it's a huge number on the shutter speeds that difference. But in most of photography, that's what you're balancing out, is the length of the shutter speed and the size of the hole. And we'll come back to what shutter speeds do and what apertures do later, but you just need to know those are the combinations. And your camera, when you put your camera on auto, it's deciding that for you. And it's saying, I think we should shoot this with a big hole and a fast shutter speed. And you might not want it to do that because it might not have the effect that you want. So that's the first two really big things. There are then two other things that affect the amount of the size you're going to have to set those holes. First one is how much light there is.
Yes.
So if it's really sunny, you've got much more light, you're on a beach, then it's you're not going to need to let nearly as much light in as if you're down in a basement with a candle.
Yeah.
It's just it's back to your thing with your eyes. If you're down in the basement, it's really hard to see. You need more light, or you need longer exposure. If you're on the beach, you need a shorter exposure. And then the last thing that affects it is the sensitivity of the thing that is recording the light. So the thing that is in the back of the camera here, so that would have been film,
Yeah.
but now it's a computer chip that senses the amount of light. Now that computer chip, you can set how sensitive it is to light. And so you're basically sort of turning up the volume. It's like putting more power through it. Now, the upside of that is it makes it more sensitive. The downside of that is the more you turn up the sensitivity, the worse the quality gets. So often when you see pictures shot in very low light, they'll be very grainy, and that's because the sensitivity has been turned right up, and so the quality has gone down. And it's great because you can still get the picture, but the quality goes. And then that is called the ISO, is the setting that we can look at on the camera. And that's the thing that the higher you turn that up. Now, normally on auto, your camera's picking that as well. So it's picking the ISO, it's picking the shutter speed, and it's picking the aperture, and you're just pointing and shooting. And the thing that we're going to look at today is doing it manually and just getting our heads around how we make the picture, set the right exposure for the conditions. And so within your camera, there is an exposure meter. So when you set it to manual, you will see there's a little bar across the top, and by moving the aperture and the shutter speed, you will see that it moves to too bright or too dark. But the other thing to always remember is the camera is just averaging everything out. So you might want a picture that's really bright, or you might want a picture that's really dark and moody. So you might not actually want to shoot with what the camera says you should be shooting. Now, the wonderful thing about modern cameras is you can see what the picture looks like when you go click. So you can go click and you can see, oh, it's a bit too bright, I want it to be more dark and moody, and you can change the controls and make it make it different. And so that's what we're going to play around with today. We're going to find something to shoot, and we're going to shoot it with big apertures and fast shutter speed, small apertures, and then we're also going to look at it maybe even just shooting the same picture darker and lighter and seeing what it looks like.